Well, hey there, Andrew Dennis. Welcome back. Yes, he transfers from Illinois to Michigan State. Also, could Derrick Harmon be coming back? Michigan State's in his top 5. And then we are joined by Jason Knick. I got to check some hot takes with him. And at the very end of the show, oh yeah, that's right. Kentucky Derby jockey or MSU athlete. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Game off, we got to talk more about Monopoly Go, this fast-paced game that lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below on YouTube, reach out to us at lockedonspartans@gmail.com, and let's have a great start to the day, especially you, Mr. Dollett. That's right, met him at my brother's baseball game on Wednesday night, so Mr. Dollett, listener of the show, just got to shout you out right at the top here. Of course, love all the listeners, all the viewers, you guys are truly the best. Let's get rocking and rolling here. Andrew Dennis. Never a doubt that he was going to be a Spartan this fall, right? What a journey back to East Lansing for Andrew Dennis. Now, if you're not into recruiting, if you're just kind of on the outside looking in and you live a healthy and happy life, well, we'll give a quick rundown of him. If you follow recruiting, you already know who we're talking about. So Andrew Dennis, 6'4", 285-pound offensive lineman. Guys, for the 2024 class, he was a top 160 player in the country. But it always wasn't like that. Michigan State, when the last staff started to recruit him, he was outside the top 800 nationally. I mean, this is just an in-state 3-star kid that hopefully you can mold into a good offensive lineman one day, and maybe he'll blossom. You know, that happens with offensive linemen quite often. But my goodness, as his recruitment just went on and on, he only got higher and higher on those boards and netted out as the number 7 interior offensive lineman recruit in the country and the number 3 overall player in the state. Now, of course, guys, things got squirrely here in the last, year. So he decommitted. Very understandably so. Not going to hold that against him. Plenty of kids would have decommitted in that situation. So he goes and picks Illinois. And he also had offers from all sorts of other places like Penn State, Clemson, Auburn, Utah, Stanford. He even took a late Purdue visit in his recruitment. So there he is. He was just at Illinois, early enrollee for the Fighting Illini. Also the highest ranked recruit for the 2024 Illinois class. And already after the spring practice cycle, he hops in the transfer portal. And guys, you know how this all ends. He picks Michigan State. Now, technically, this is a transfer for Michigan State. But let's say hypothetically, we'll just add him as part of the 2024 class. Okay, that's pretty easy to do because luckily the fine folks at 24/7 Sports, they have a calculator where you can just plug in players. So we did that for the 2024 class. And what this does, Michigan State was 42nd nationally, which I think is a really good job by Jonathan Smith, scrambling late, getting here late November, and still putting together a pretty respectable class, all things considered. Adding Andrew Dennis moves them from 42 to 40th. So a good enough player to move you up 2 spots right there. Now, for this offensive line class specifically for 2024, this is a pretty strong effort, right, for this staff, for Coach Maholchek, the offensive line coach, because you got a good crop. You got quantity and quality here. Your tackles, Peyton Stewart, 4-star Rustin Yun, and then Mercer Lenieski. Now, inside the interior, you have the other Lenieski brother, of course, Charlton Lenieski, and then Rakeem Johnson, the pride of Idaho himself, and now Andrew Dennis. So that's 2 4-stars in the mix. And one guy that we've already been hearing early stuff about, and this is even before he's going to step foot on campus, or he did step foot on campus, is Rakeem Johnson out of Idaho has been catching some recruiting experts out west a little by surprise. And it's, not completely unreasonable to understand why. Idaho's not necessarily a football hotbed. I don't know how many recruiting events they have out there. So, yeah, he's been surprising people too. So, that's your offensive line class. So For this upcoming year, is there an instant impact to the Andrew Dennis commitment? Look, obviously a very good player, good prospect, top 160 in the nation. We'll say that again, but it's just hard for true freshmen on the offensive line to be seen action that quickly. With that said, depth is still an issue on the offensive line. I'm sure the coaching staff is going to try to shore that up in the transfer portal cycle with some older experienced players to get on the depth chart. But hey, if things get squirrely, if guys start dropping like flies in the injury report, which is something we've seen, unfortunately, here last few years in East Lansing, who knows? Maybe you do see an Andrew Dennis on the field this year. Now, we're going to go to some not so like happy news on the other side of the ball, still in the trenches. This pertains to the defensive line, and this goes for a guy that actually I was really excited about coming to Michigan State next year. This is Brandon Lane, the Stephen F. Austin defensive tackle transfer, a guy that was getting some super late draft buzz already, even though he played at a school like Stephen F. Austin. Michigan State, they get his commitment. They beat out some other Power 4 schools. And guys, a mutual decision. There was not much of an explanation given here. Brandon Lane, after all, will not be coming to Michigan State. So all the smiles that we shared from that episode not too long ago, just go ahead and delete those from your memory because Brandon Lane will not be here. You know what? If you're watching on YouTube right now, comment below what your favorite moment of the Brandon Lane, TJ Sheffield, and Tony Grimes era at Michigan State was. Look, obviously the transfer portal is weird. It's screwy. Nothing seems to make sense. Everything changes by the hour, it seems like. But, man, when you have 3 of these in the same cycle where you have commits from guys and then they don't come here for certain reasons and could have been grades for the other guys or credits transferring over, I don't know. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of the Jonathan Smith, his whole team. I think they run a pretty clean transfer portal search so far, but that's just one thing we got to tighten up. Make sure that we're recruiting kids that can come to campus or that we want on campus. I don't know. Just call me crazy for that one. But anyway, been pretty heavy with the praise on Jonathan Smith and the staff this offseason, I think. Just go ahead and just mark that down for just a slight piece of constructive criticism. Make sure you're getting commitments from guys that will actually possibly be here in the fall. Anyway, I'm sure it's much more complex than that. Anyway, another piece of news from the defensive line room. That's not all that fun. Yesterday's show with Ryan O'Blennis, we talked about JV Suggs. This is a guy from Grand Valley State that has gotten all sorts of Power 4 offers. Like he's already visited Wisconsin, Florida State, Arkansas. He was going to visit Michigan State potentially this weekend. That is not happening either. So great news in the defensive tackle room. God, if you are listening out there and you're over 250 pounds, over 5'10" at this point, go ahead and mosey on over to East Lansing. They might have to use you this year. I'm mostly kidding, kind of. There's still a lot of time left in the transfer portal cycle, but yeah, it just sucks when the good targets that Michigan State had pegged will just not end up coming to fruition. Oh, well, plenty of fish still out there. Like potentially a name that we are incredibly familiar with, Derrick Harmon. Yeah, that's right. On 3, earlier on Thursday, they tweeted out, per Steve Wiltfon, and Pete Nakos got a name drop him too, that Colorado, Ohio State, Oregon, USC, and that's right, your Michigan State Spartans are the top 5 for Derrick Harmon. Now, there's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with this. I do wonder how things have gone in the transfer portal for Derrick Harmon because maybe there's an offer out there, big number, that maybe not have been, I don't know, matching up what his people were hearing. You can kind of connect the dots there for the Miami visit that he was going to go on. And then all of a sudden, that visit was canceled by Miami. It's like, well, let's see what else is out here. Now, with that said, I'm sure USC, Ohio State, like they will have no problem finding money if it is going to come down to that issue. Who knows how much it's going to be? I do know this, and I don't think that this is too far of a stretch to just believe on the surface, is that I don't think Michigan State is going to go any higher than the number that they settled at in the winter. Okay, it has been heavily rumored, if not outright reported, that Derrick Harmon, when he was in the transfer portal originally in the winter, that he came to Michigan State as one of the highest paid defensive tackles, if not the highest paid defensive tackle in the Big Ten. I don't know if Michigan State is going to go any higher above that just to get his services because, well, for a few reasons. One of them being, are we really going to just spend like we're an NFL team on a defensive tackle that was honorable mention last year, which is good, but it's not like your first team all Big Ten. And also for a season that honestly we might just go like 7-5 in. I hate to sound like that, but guys, eventually you got to ask yourself, what are we spending this money for? And more importantly, I don't think MSU is going to go any higher than that original number, because what kind of a precedent would that set here for future teams under Jonathan Smith of, hey, sure, you could do the winter portal thing. Go ahead, get your number, shop it around. We'll see if we can match it. That's all fine. Like, that just happens in life, not just the transfer portal, but life. You come back 3.5 months later and do that again. Okay, now it's a little irritating, and now that's not something that we are going to stand for moving forward here. So that's why I don't expect Michigan State to go any higher than their number that they're at right now. So who knows where this is going to end? My gut says that no, it won't be back at Michigan State, but if it is, I mean, would it be a little bizarre? Sure, I guess, to us fans, but the people that actually matter are the coaching staff and the players. And is it asking a lot of them to just accept them back with open arms? No, maybe not asking a lot, but it would kind of like sort of be a weird thing, wouldn't it? I don't know. Hopefully we have that problem. It'd be good to have Derrick Harmon back, but just what a fun transfer portal saga this is. Guys, really quick before we get into Jason Knick here, I do have to clean up some slop that I left a few shows ago. This is when we were talking about safety depth. All right, I said that, well, Jaden Mangum's gone. Sean Brown, he's gone. Armarion Smith, he's in the portal too. One problem with that, though, guys. Armarion Smith is not in the transfer portal, nor was he ever in the transfer portal. So I am very sorry for that. If I let anyone on to believe that Armarion Smith is in the transfer portal, I don't even know where I got that from. That's not like, oh, I heard a little inside bug that told me that. No. I am very sorry that I inadvertently just tossed Armarion Smith's name into the transfer portal. So if that kind of took you by surprise a few shows ago, want to clear that up. If you're part of the Smith family, or if you are Armarion himself listening to this show, because come on, I know you don't miss an episode. I'm incredibly sorry. That was a big gaffe on my part right there. So just want to clear that up. Also, guys, when we talk with Jason Knick, he is a saint. All right, not only did he carve out time to join this show, but he fought through technical difficulties all on my end here. I try to do my best editing them all out here in the next two segments, but yeah, what a way to end the first segments. Screwed up the Armarion Smith thing, and my internet was horrendous during the Jason Knick conversation. But hey, enough of that. Let's get into the first break here. Guys, eBay Motors is the best place to find everything you need. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. We're talking superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you are looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or it's your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge win. So what are you waiting for out there? Keep your ride or die alive over at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. I'm going to bring some takes here. We're going to start with just one that is just so plainly bland and vanilla. It will be a cold take. But the first one is, it would be inexcusable for Izzo not to get a center in this portal cycle, right? Just take it away. Like that's just easy, right?
Well, you would think so, but the problem is doing a show with Graham 3 days a week. He puts these things in my brain where I'm like, does he know something? What does he know? Is he real? Because he's mentioned on the show that a possibility of Izzo not getting a 5, and I'm going, the hot take shows are already 2 hours long. I don't want to sit there and read Tom Izzo takes, hot seat takes for the next, 2024 season, 25 season. So I think he has to. I don't know. I know people want it sooner than later.
Yeah.
But there's just, I don't think that there's any way. But I know Izzo really, if he's set in his ways, and he did it this year. I mean, shout out to Monty Sissoko for going to Cal. I know he's a great guy. We have to preface it all the time with that. But, I thought, Graham was trying to convince me that he was coming back. So blame Graham Couch is what I'm trying to say in this whole thing, you know. But yes, I would think that Izzo would see what happened last year, and I would hope the Hall of Famer would get a 5, just for us. Come on, Tom.
Yeah, throw us a bone, you know, or like just have a center visit campus, and even if you're not serious about taking him, just give us something to chew on here. Give us a bone to chew on. Be like, hey, at least he's trying, but not even.
And isn't there donor money? Isn't there if Izzo wants a guy and calls me, and I'm Ishbia or one of these guys, Sekia, and they're like, I need $1 million to get this guy. Bam. I want Izzo to get his second natty. I just don't know where are these guys at. That's the fascinating part, Matt, is the behind the scenes for all this stuff and the kiss in the butt of the donors and all this. I mean, it's fascinating.
Yes.
And I don't know why it's not a reality show.
I know. It's like we keep hearing about it's strong NIL, especially in basketball. You know, you call Matt Ishbia, blank check coming your way. When do you get to start using it? Because I feel like this is almost like the U.S. military where, like, hey, we are armed to the teeth here, but, like, we don't, like, really have to use it often. Like, no, you can use your money. I promise you the world will still spin, and you can still prove your points that the portal's still bad and everything, but just take advantage of it.
Yeah, and it's not like you have to be a billionaire. There's guys that want to donate $1 million. What if your $1 million was the reason why Tom got his second natty? Isn't that the greatest thing of all time? You can put it in your Twitter bio, on your Facebook for $1 million. You know, come on.
Let's start every conversation with that. Like, hey, how's it going? I had a major hand in getting Tom Izzo his second national title. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I'd just be a nauseating human being, more so than I already am. Second take, I think we're ramping up the temperature here, but you brought up the 5.5 wins for Michigan State. We've had a show before the portal season that, hey, I'm feeling very good about the over. I like how the schedule sets up. I still think over 5.5, despite everything with the transfer portal so far, is in play.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the schedule, obviously with the Tucker era ending, it's kind of, I think that's lingering over still of people's mentality. Whereas Jonathan Smith's a very professional guy. He's going to come in and have these guys ready to play. I don't think a lot of the Mel Tucker era stuff of especially the way the defense, how terrible that was. Yeah. And at the end of the season, I mean, there's tough games. Obviously, you play Ohio State at home, go to Oregon after that, and then Michigan on the road at Michigan. But you know, the last 4, you got Indiana, at Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers, Matt. I go, you know, those are winnable games. I don't see Indiana, some of those teams being that scary. So I just think the 5.5 number, I just want to hammer the over.
Same, because even after the whole, you know, spring portal window so far, FanDuel moved their total from a whopping 5.5 for Michigan State to 5.5. So their expectations haven't changed out in the desert. Neither have mine, neither of yours, it sounds like. The only thing that's really changed for me is I guess I'm a little more scared just because the offensive line depth. And just like you said, Jason, like October's a murderer's row. It's Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, and Michigan. Oh, crap. Aiden Childs, just do a month study abroad in October just so you can come back in November healthy. You know what?
Let Schuster take the hits, man.
Not to make a sacrificial lamb out of our coveted transfer quarterback, but if you don't mind Tommy Schuster to sling the ball there for a little bit in October.
He knows what he signed up for. He's ready to do it.
I mean, he's probably getting okay NIL money. He's going to be getting like MSU sweatsuits that are really cool, look like Nike. Like I'm sure it's all worth, getting absolutely bruised and battered in October if your offensive line isn't up to snuff. But all right, this is where we're going to start moving into uncomfortable territory here, because I think this is where we're really going to start to divide people. Keon Coleman, drafted by the Bills, great segment of the fan base that are just absolutely over the moon with him. Jason, in order to be a Spartan dog for life for me, you have to play at Michigan State, like, to end your career. How hot of a take is that? Or am I just way too grumpy of a person and I should just rely?
I think you're being a little too grumpy just because of how great Keon Coleman is, and that we want these guys to be like Keon Coleman. And look at all the stories about how, and people are, I'm buying his jersey now. He's just being himself. And sometimes we know wide receivers are divas anyway. And he just seems like he's a down-to-earth guy, and that's who he is. He's not putting on a persona or anything. I can totally understand being mad about – but wouldn't you have left, though, that situation? Those guys saw the behind-the-scenes stuff, Matt. I mean, I can't blame anybody for leaving that Tucker era, and he went to Florida State, and look what happened. So I can't blame any of these guys anymore.
That foils my agenda big time. The whole, like, well, look what happened. Wouldn't you have left too? Like, no, it is. Sure. And that's what makes me really seem like the bad guy here. But like, let's say for some reason, like Gino Vandermark, he finds a good spot. He's a day 3 pick. Like, are we doing hey, that's our guy over there? Or like, when does it end eventually? Or does it ever end? Is this just the new era that we got to get used to of if you at least had a cup of coffee in East Lansing, you're a Spartan dog for life, baby.
Oh, yeah, put them in the Ring of Honor and all that, put their numbers up into the rafters. But, yeah, I don't think anybody's talking about legendary status of Keon Coleman. I mean, unbelievable football player. But, yeah, I mean, if he wants to come back and hang with a basketball team and just still rep Michigan State, I mean, I'm not mad at it. What can he be mad at anymore? College athletics,
I just got to rewire my brain for that, I guess, because
so it makes the show great, and don't do that.
Yeah, just someone that's borderline unhinged about how they treat college age student athletes. Because like obviously I'm one of the lowest runs on the ladder here. Obviously, it's his former teammates, and he was there for them at Breslau. Like they obviously had no problem with it, or the guys that he used to play with. And I'll move on to my spiciest take here, Jason. And this is going to get people upset, I think. It's about the spring game. Attendance was low this year for Michigan State. It was low across the country, okay? So my idea for the spring game is not to make it a whole 60-minute game or anything like that. It's to have the spring showcase every year at Ford Field. I think that a big problem for people was the weather. Take care of that with a climate-controlled building. I've heard other people, they just want to tailgate. Well, great. There's bars and restaurants around Ford Field. You can go here. And a lot of people did not like that the game was at Ford Field last year. Guess what? It was a sellout anyway. Despite how disastrous the season was, the Metro Detroit Spartans had a bone thrown their way. So is this a nice middleman of, hey, let's not sacrifice a real game during the season, but let's just mosey on over to a climate-controlled, surrounded by restaurant stadium to have our spring showcase. Did I sell you on that at all?
A little bit. I just was thinking about how bad the parking was going to be and having to drive an hour and a half down to Ford Field. But it's a great idea to have it indoors because April, or maybe push it back to as far as you can to where the weather can be decent. But I wouldn't mind it indoors. But I just don't know even then, Matt, if people would even care, especially if you have to drive down to Detroit. I mean, I know it wouldn't get me to go. No, it would get Graham to complain a lot because you'd have to cover the spring game and drive 3-hour round trip. So it'd be worth that, but
it would get like Graham like at least 2 columns worth of substance out there.
And the thing is, I want the spring game to be fun, but why open up the tailgating, have some like events out there,
right?
To have people come out. People love free stuff. I don't know. There's a way to do it, I believe, but you just got to let people have kind of fun out there and not have it so uniform.
We have a game to get to, annual tradition. Kentucky Derby Jockey or MSU Athlete. Folks, but first, I need to talk to your ears off about Monopoly Go. That is right, the mobile twist on the classic board game you love. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go, and I know what you're saying, flagging the play. You've already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get, like unique stickers you could trade with your friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new plain pieces to travel the boards with, and hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. That's right. You want to be friendly, or do you kind of want to be a enemy of a friend? Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. There's always new timed events too that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it for free right now on Google Play or the App Store. It's game on with Monopoly Go. And speaking of games here, let's drag him on here. He was not made aware of this before he agreed here, but folks, it is an annual tradition. We've been doing this anywhere from 2 to 7 years. No one really ever does well at this game, at least not to my memory. So good luck. You got this. We believe in you. Are you ready to play Kentucky Derby Jockey or MSU Athlete? Name number 1, David Gucciardi. David Gucciardi, jockey or athlete at MSU?
MSU.
That is a Michigan State hockey player, Mr. Gucciardi. Jason, you are 1 for 1. Way to get out to a hot start there. The next name we got for you, Antonio Fresu. Antonio Fresu.
That's got to be a jockey.
Because it is a jockey, Jason. That is right. He is riding Stronghold this weekend in the Running for the Roses at 20-1. All right. Number 3, Nick Ferrazzi. Nick Ferrazzi.
Oh, that sounds like a hockey guy. MSU.
It's MSU, but it's baseball, but we're counting that anyway. That's a 3-for-3 start for one Jason Knick right now. He is rolling right now. Don't know if he channeled his inner prime options here, but like something has been unlocked right now. This is a hot start to this game here. All right. Kimura Kazushi.
Mirror, that seems like it's tricky. Like you're trying to trick me there. MSU athlete.
Jockey.
Ah!
Riding TO password at 30-1 this weekend. So you are a smooth 3-1 right now. That's, I mean, honestly, roaring start here. As we go to number 5, Sebastian Collard.
MSU.
Tennis player. Nailed it. Look at you. 4-1 for Jason Knick. We're in through 5 right now. And this is a great hit rate right now as we go to Flavian Pratt.
That's a jockey.
He can't be stopped. Riding Catching Freedom this week, a horse that I do like actually to place in the top 3 here. Catching Freedom is the horse. Flavian Pratt's the jockey. As we move on to number 7, Lorenzo Pinilli.
MSU.
Golfer for the Michigan State golf team. My goodness gracious, that's 6-1, and you have secured an above 500 record in Kentucky Derby jockey or MSU athlete. This is just sensational, I gotta say. As we move on to Umberto Rispoli.
All right, this one's either really too obvious. You're trying to trick me. Is this like all time, like 1930s or something too?
No, these are all current for this weekend. Currently at Michigan State. Yep.
Jockey.
That is correct. Riding endlessly. This is 7-1 right now. We're going to be talking about this one for years to come. God forbid if this show lasts this long. But my goodness gracious, this is shattering records right now. If you're somehow beating Jason right now, comment below on YouTube. I can't imagine anyone is. But next one, number 9, Florent Giroux.
That sounds like some sort of like, I'm going to go MSU.
Jockey, just a touch, but still 7-2 as we go into the final 2 right here. Brendan Favaza. We're going to see him on a horse this week, or is he at East Lansing right now?
East Lansing.
Jockey, unfortunately. He is a distance runner for your Michigan State cross-country team. I'm sure he does a little bit of track work too. As we go to the last one, we'll be 8-3 or 7-4 as we go to Frankie Dettori. You got this.
A jockey named Brendan? I mean, really? I'm going to go MSU to end it.
Society Man is the horse he will be on, but Jason, I got to say, strong 7-4 right now. And I know we talked a little bit gambling earlier, like just over-unders for games. Do you dabble in the Kentucky Derby whatsoever, or does this not move the needle for you whatsoever?
It doesn't really move the needle. Like, I get why it's exciting, the fastest or the best 2 minutes in sports. I would, if we were at a party or something and people were throwing money around, I would. But yeah, I leave it to you horse people, you know.
I love the Kentucky Derby. Like, it's probably maybe like one of the events that I love more than most people. It's squarely in my top 3. No question. Do you have a sporting event like that where you're confident that you love it more than anyone else? And if so, what is it?
Well, it was the NFL. I mean, going to the Lions playoff game against the Rams, being in that building, like nothing will ever change that. I mean, obviously, if we're NFC Championship game at home or something crazy, but just to be there and closing down Ford Field and leaving at like 1:30 after celebrating. It was just wild, and nothing will ever top that in my life. Even though, you know, I tell my wife, you know, it's like, sorry, but it was better than our wedding. Like, I'm sorry. It was
completely understandable.
I mean, you know, she understands.
I wasn't even there, and it's like one of the best days of all time. Like, it was just sensational. What was the first to heal? Or I guess what was the biggest ailment you had leaving that game? Was it like the voice? Was it your ears? Or like what is the biggest thing you're laboring the next day after a game at Ford Field like that?
Well, I flew out to Mexico the next morning.
Wow.
So I went back to my buddy. He lives in Berkeley, stayed at his house. I slept an hour and then drove to the airport.
So I was so ecstatic, like on the plane. I didn't even sleep on the plane.
Sure.
So yeah, it was all like, and then when I got to Mexico, I took like about a 6-hour nap from the whole deal. So
sure.
Yeah. Man.
That's what
hopefully
I'm talking
next
about.
year too.
And that week sounds a lot better than how this last 30 minutes went. We fought through technical difficulties. I'm very, very sorry for that. Jason, love talking to you, man. Would love to have you on. I'm going to get the hamster wheel spinning a little faster the next time that you're on.
Anytime, man.
Anything you want to plug before we let you go? Yeah, of course. Anything you want to plug here before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your weekend here?
Couch in the Rube podcast, wherever you find your podcast, YouTube, all that stuff. Check out the Twitter account, whatever you want to do.
There we go. And folks, make sure you have a great weekend. Good luck in your Kentucky Derby betting. Until next time, love you all. Go Green.